Welcome back, guys, to my YouTube channel, my series on Grand Prix World. You're here in part 2 with my Stewart team, and I guess the first thing we're going to do, had a lot of feedback from you guys as well, not only in the YouTube section but on Discord and so on as well, so thanks very much for that. So we're going to keep this video short today. I'm just going to explain a couple of things around what's happening so you have a better idea. So we probably won't do the Brazilian Grand Prix right now, but I'll have a look at explaining some things. So I'll explain the stats of drivers, of the staff members, what the individual staff members do, and then we'll look at the car, the facilities, the engine parts, sponsors, and we'll go from there. So let's look at the drivers first. So drivers have a couple of stats, as you can see here. Let's take Barrichello and Magnussen for example. Speed is your overall, as it says, ability, your quickness in the dry conditions. So higher rating with speed is really important for that. So obviously Barrichello is a much better driver than Magnussen because of this, because Barrichello, as the cars get better, there becomes a noticeable gap in terms of the performance between a driver like Barrichello and Magnussen. In the worst cars there isn't so much of a difference. Skill is a kind of a difficult one. It's kind of like speed, but it kind of applies more so in the race rather than in qualifying. Speed is more qualifying as opposed to the race, so skill is quite important in that respect as well. Magnussen's actually 2 in that. It's his only other one other than experience, whereas Barrichello's on a really lofty 4. Overtaking is very important in this game as well, especially if you're in a quicker car and you're behind. With 2 overtaking and 1 overtaking, Barrichello and Magnussen will rarely ever get by someone who's got a higher overtaking ability. You ideally need to be at least 3 to make up positions, and obviously if you're on 5 you can kind of just blast by people reasonably easy. I think Schumacher, Hakkinen and Villeneuve are the only ones with 5 out of 5 overtaking. The next one is wet weather. Now this is a vital skill depending on the teams you have or the drivers you have. Wet weather can make or break a championship, it can make or break a season. If it's raining or intermediate conditions, especially if it's heavy rain conditions, with wet weather, the higher your wet weather skill, the more of a gap. So if it's intermediate, it's kind of like 50% speed, 50% wet weather. But if it's fully heavy rain, it's all of the wet weather as opposed to the speed. Speed isn't taken into account at all, so wet weather is what decides the drivers. And a lot of the drivers have got 3 or less in wet weather skill. Jacques Villeneuve, for instance, I think he's 4 out of 5 in terms of speed, but his wet weather is only 2, so he's going to be really slow in wet weather conditions, as I think we saw in the last race, I believe it was in qualifying. We'll have a look at that there later as well. Concentration, likelihood of making a mistake, crashing out of the race. Ideally you'd want that to be at 5 out of 5, because then it's very rare that mistakes happen, but they still happen. Experience, I guess it kind of relates to concentration. This wasn't really explained that well in what I've seen all around, but I guess with more experience you're less likely to make crashes and you're more likely to keep up consistent lap times as the race goes on. Stamina is next, and stamina is making sure lap times don't fall off towards the end of the race. Yeah, you can be quick at the start when you're full of energy, but as the race goes on, the higher stamina drivers actually find little bits of time rather than losing them. So Barrichello will stay around the same pace, but a driver like Michael Schumacher, whose stamina is 5 out of 5, his pace will actually increase slightly as the race goes on. Morale is an interesting one. So morale is actually kind of vital for a driver. If you have 3 out of 5 morale, but like both Barrichello and Magnussen does, it does nothing. Right, it has no effect. But if it's 2 out of 5, it adds 1 random point. Sorry, if it's 2 out of 5, it subtracts 1 random point from one of the other skills. So Barrichello for the next race could be 2 out of 5 in speed, just for that one race, if his morale was 2 out of 5. And if it's 1 out of 5, you subtract 2 of them. So he could be 1 out of 5 in speed, which could be, you know, costly. And if it's 4 out of 5, 1 added on, so then Barrichello could be 4 out of 5 or 4 out of 5 in wet weather, which would be excellent if the race was raining. Or if it was 5 out of 5, you get 2 added on. And that's how that works. So that's how the drivers work. There's nothing else really to talk about. All these other things aren't really worth talking about in this game. They're just nice stats to have a look at. And yeah, the only other thing, of course, is like the salary and the race bonuses and stuff. As you can see, Barrichello's worth his money. He's 4.1 million, 4.2 million. He's well worth it. Magnussen isn't. You can get better paid drivers than Magnussen, and as I said, they'll pay you. We've signed Pedro Diniz for next season. He'll be paying us 9.6 over the course of the season. We were paying Magnussen 1.2, so in fact that's a 10.8 million surplus we're going to have next season just in that alone, which is important because it looks like we might not get the Ford engine deal that we were hoping to get. So staff, commercial kind of just affects the ability to negotiate really good deals. So the higher the ability of the commercial guy, the better your chance of getting a good deal with better sponsors, and also the speed of them as well. Morale, which affects all of the departments, works like this. If it's at 100%, great. If it's 2 bars, they work to 80% efficiency. And if it's 1 bar, they work to 60% efficiency, which is really bad. So that's what you don't want. You don't want a morale rating like that in any of those. If it's 4 bars, they work to 110% efficiency, and if it's 5 bars, it's 120% efficiency. So that's how that works. Design, not so important in this version of the game. A designer is all about the speed of the parts you're designing, and whether he can make driving aids. The higher a designer's rating, the more reliable. The FIA will say yes to your driving aids as well. And at the start of every season, of course, the designer's ability determines what kind of technology you'll have at the start of the season. So as you've seen already from the first episode, we had terrible technology because this designer is absolutely terrible. The other thing a designer used to do in the old version of the game was, if he had 4 out of 5 ability, he could design. If you had 100% efficiency, you could design an 80% rated chassis. Whereas now, you only take 25% of a designer's ability. So he's 1 out of 5, which is 20. So 5% of his ability, plus 75% of the engineering's ability, and that's what you get. Engineering used to be that important. Now it's the most important, and rightfully so, because they're by far the most expensive. The technical directors that you sign in a team, Jenkins is terrible. Next year we're signing John Barnard, of course, which is a coup for a team of our size. And yeah, they're worth 75% of the chassis handling. As well as that, and a technical director also oversees the manufacturing of spare parts, of new chassis, upgrading parts, upgrading driver's age, upgrading the chassis itself, so it's quite important. Finally, the mechanic. Mechanics are just all about the speed of repairing your cars, so better mechanic will use less of his team to repair a car with spare parts. Better mechanic will also allow you to do more efficient testing, and a better mechanic will also allow you to do better pit stops and more efficient pit stops, and also, as well as that, you can actually spy on other cars, which will become vital, as we'll see as this series goes on. So that's the first thing we need to look at. The second thing we're going to look at now is sponsors. So as you can see here, quick spoiler for the next episode. And this is also a bit of a spoiler, we've got no deal here. So each of these team sponsors gives you cash. Team sponsors are huge. They're the difference maker and a title challenger in this game. 5-star team sponsor like Winfried, East and Marano, they give like 30 million per season. Playlife give about 27, Blondes give about 24, 25, Buzz and Hornets or Benson Hedges, whatever way you want to call them, they give about 22, Red Bull give about 19 to 20 million. And they're deal breakers because they help your teams progress. Unfortunately, we're not good enough. We won't get those for next season, as you can see here. The engine is next, so these are all going to be a little bit of spoilers for the next episode, guys. So you'll see we won't be able to get a works engine, which is a bit of a pain, but that's just the way it goes. Engines have different stats. Fuel is, how much fuel do you need to put into the car. So the lower that rating is, the more your car weighs because of the fuel. Heat, the hotter the car, the more likely it is to blow up. So the Mercedes engine, for instance, is poor, whereas you look over at the Peugeot, that's really good. Power, of course, the single most important stat for the engine in terms of ability, which does affect the chassis rating, I'm told, but I haven't got confirmation on that. So the Mercedes engine obviously is a massive powerhouse. Reliability, less chance of it just going away and exploding. Response is how the delivery comes out through the corners, which is important on some tracks like Monaco, Hungary, for instance. Rigidity is another really important one, which isn't really talked about. The lower the rigidity of the engine, the more chance it has of blowing up, because you're putting loads of power through the engine, and the engine the valves keep exploding, or they keep popping off. And it also affects your rear wing as well. So your rear wing can have a failure if there's too much vibrations coming through the engine. So parts can have actual failures because of the rigidity of your engine, so it's important to have that as high as possible. And finally, the weight, the lower the weight, so the higher that bar goes, the lower the weight of the car or the engine is, which is better for overall downforce. As you can see here, we're at Ford. Ford's actually not a bad weight. Good fuel, good heat for a Season 1 engine. Terrible power and reliability, terrible rigidity as well. An okay response, and that's what they're looking at there. Next up is tyres, as you'll see here as well. We were never ever going to get a works deal with Bridgestone, but we have a chance for a partner deal, which could be good. But yeah, as you see here, Bridgestone have by far the better of the dry weather tyres. Yes, we'll just go over by one. So they've by far the better of the dry weather tyres. Grip, overall grip from your tyres, Resilience is like the, how do I say it, the wear of the tires, so the stronger they are. So Bridgestone have an edge there as well. Stiffness, less chance of them blowing up due to a puncture. And temperature of the tires is the chance they have of staying within a certain range, which means the tires operate at their best. Basically, Bridgestone have the edge on this in every single dry weather tire that they have, every single stat, pretty much all the way through. Intermediates is more balanced with a slight edge, I think, towards Goodyear. And Goodyear have by far the better wet weather tire, like miles better wet weather tire, but it does have a lower temperature rating. So yeah, that's what you're looking at there. Fuel supplier, so they've only got two stats, performance and engine tolerance. Performance, again, more performance you get from your fuel, the more powerful your engine can be used. Tolerance is a very important rating as well. If you don't have a good engine tolerance, your engine is likely to blow up. All the stats here are really low at the start of this game because it's season 1. Luckily we're with, I believe, we're with Texaco at the moment. Yes, we are. So what are Texaco? Let's just have a look. So Texaco, just so you guys know, 3-star performance, 1-star tolerance, and that's probably why in the last race, if you cast your mind back, Magnussen had a failure. And with the cash sponsors then, it's just how much cash they give. Normally for 5-1 they give around 1.8, 1.9 upwards. 4, 1.6, 1.7. 3, 1.3, 1.2. 2, it's like maybe around $1 million if you're lucky. It'd be 800,000 and one. They can give anywhere from 100,000 upwards, so it's very little point in negotiating with those guys as well. But yeah, that's pretty much been it, guys, at the moment, in terms of explaining what all of those do as well. We explained the commercial staff the last day a little bit, so there's not really much else to talk about there. You can see here the effort is what we're talking about with the mechanics. The higher your mechanics ratings, the less of the mechanics you can use to get full effort on your pit stops. We have to use all of ours, of course, because we've none. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. If you have any questions about anything that has happened in this video in terms of the cars and stuff, let us know. Actually, one last thing. Driving aids improve performance. A little spoilers here as well. For the next video, you'll see we'll be able to develop power brakes. We won't be able to improve our brakes reliability, which is a problem. We've already talked about these. The last thing is the facilities. So CAD aids designing of the car, I believe. CAM aids designing the CFD simulation. The supercomputer helps the model design, I believe. So, oh no, it's the other way around actually. Model design is with CAM and supercomputer is the CFD simulation. Wind tunnel, of course, you need to develop a wind tunnel, but that's really expensive. It's like 10 million to develop a level 5 wind tunnel. But yeah, you need to upgrade your facilities. The more level of facilities you have, the more you can do. And the higher your facilities, the more people you can hire. But yeah, that's it, guys. Thanks very much for tuning in to today's video. Next one will be up either tonight, again, or tomorrow. So yeah, take care.